This guy went in and shot up a school. What's your solution? Hey, all of you that didn't go in and shoot up a school, hand over your guns, because that's going to deter this guy. And I'm looking at this going, wait a second, guns have been around in massive quantities in the United States for hundreds of years. It used to be that during hunting season, boys would show up with their shotguns in the truck on school so they could immediately get out to the fields as soon as school was over. Yet we didn't have this problem. Why are school shootings like this a recent phenomenon in American history? Gun ownership is not a recent phenomenon. Schools are not a recent phenomenon. So why is it different now? I think there's two things you have to look at. One is, how do you address the immediate problem? Well, I don't think you address the immediate problem by telling a bunch of people that did nothing wrong that they have to give up essential civil liberties. I think you address it by having more security in the places which have become vulnerable targets. And this is the part that they really don't want to talk about. How do we get to a point where there is such a disregard for human life that somebody believes that a perfectly legitimate way to express their frustration with the world is to shoot the most innocent within our society?
A U.S. District Court judge strikes down parts of New Jersey's assault weapons ban, but he seemed to have a problem in doing so. Welcome to another installment of the Connecticut Gun Bench. Today's video is brought to you by P.A.N. Firearms, LLC. P.A.N. Firearms, your NRA certification of multifaceted gun training. You can reach us at 203-300-6343 or use our website at www.panfirearmsllc.com. As always, there'll be a link in the description box below. And if you like channel, like content, what I do here, you can support me with the link. Everything is appreciated. And once again, PSA, there seems to be some real shenanigans going on in YouTube. So if your comment disappears, I'm not doing it. There seems to be a growing problem across the platform. So if you put in a comment and it disappears, I'm not doing it. Let's talk about this. A district court judge struck down parts of New Jersey's assault weapons ban. Now, he struck down the AR-15 portion, but left the what we call LCM, large capacity magazine ban, in place. And he kind of picked and chose his way through it, where the plaintiffs in the lawsuits were trying to get an overall, is this constitutional ruling? And this judge, like I said, picked his way through it. And let me give you the cases that he heard. Okay. Association of New Jersey Rifle and Pistol Clubs versus Platkin, Cheeseman versus Platkin, and Blake versus Platkin. So he heard all three. Now, all three cases were challenging whether New Jersey's term of assault weapon was a violation of the regulatory scheme under the Constitution, the Second and 14th Amendment. The problem is when this judge made his ruling, and I'm going to read you what he said because it's very interesting. He seemed to have a real problem ruling for the plaintiffs and against the state. I'm going to bring that up. Okay, and this is part of his ruling and the most interesting part, but it is hard to accept the Supreme Court's pronouncements that certain firearms policy choices are off the table when frequently radical individuals possess and use these same firearms for evil purposes, the judge wrote. Even so, the court's decision today is dictated by one of the most elementary legal principles within our legal system, stare decisis. That is, when the Supreme Court has set forth the law of our nation as a lower court, I am bound to follow it. This principle, combined with the reckless inaction of our government leaders to address the mass shooting tragedy afflicting our nations, necessitates the court's decision. For these reasons and those below, the AR-15 provision of the assault firearms law is unconstitutional. The LCM amendment is constitutional. Now, that doesn't sound like a constitutionally bound ruling. That sounds like his personal beefs are being interjected into his ruling, and that's not what you're supposed to be doing. Does the law that is being presented in front of you fall under the Constitution? Is it constitutional or is it not constitutional? And he's complaining that because of Bruin, which is what he's talking about here, he's saying that, well, because of Bruin, I have to do this, but because Bruin really didn't address this one part, I'm not going to let that happen. That's being an activist. That's not being a judge, especially a judge in cases such as these. And it's very unfortunate. But he, of course, gave a stay on his ruling for 30 days to give the New Jersey time to appeal the ruling. If my understanding is correct, during that 30-day period, New Jersey can basically sell what they call assault weapons to the public, if I'm understanding this correctly. Now, I'm going to come right to here and give you this piece here, but eventually the judge struck down the ban on Colt AR-15 rifles and not AR-15 style rifles, claiming that the plaintiff's main concerns were the AR-15. This move was likely done to narrow the ruling as much as possible. He upheld the LCM amendment of the assault firearms ban. The judge stated that Bruen and Heller both allow for a magazine ban. Like I said, he's being an activist. He relied on a pre-Bruen ruling about magazines by the Third Circuit Court of Appeals to reach this conclusion about the constitutionality of the LMC amendment. I assume they mean LCM amendment, and claimed that Bruen didn't affect the Third Circuit's decision. Well, technically, if you read Bruen, and once again, this is my interpretation of Bruen, if the rule didn't exist when the Second Amendment was put in place, then the rule doesn't exist now. When the Second Amendment was written, we had firearms that the cow cough repeater is a perfect example of that. It was a firearm that could fire from anywhere to 20 to 30 times without being reloaded. So how is he going to say now that the large capacity magazine ban is constitutional when Bruen negates that, just the fact that we had firearms at the time of the ratification of the Second Amendment that fired multiple times without being reloaded? So once again, this judge is playing activist. And that's really a damn shame. Okay? So New Jersey finds itself a little bit of relief for now because you know the state's going to appeal. And once again, this is just another case that's going to have to go up the pipe, take years, forever, because the court system is inefficient. And hopefully, like I said before, one of these cases finds its way to the Supreme Court and we get a final ruling on all of this. And once again, people, look at our election coming up. Look at what we're dealing with. We have two sides here. And I'm going to go back to something that Kyle Rittenhouse, I'm bringing him up because he came out and said that he was going to hand write in Paul Ryan as his choice for president because he claimed Trump was not Second Amendment enough. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, but you giving your vote to Paul Ryan gives one less vote to Trump, giving one more chance to Kamala Harris. And Kamala Harris is not even vaguely friendly to the Second Amendment. So you're going to have to weigh this out. You've got a rabid anti-gun president.
We want to ban assault weapons, and they want to ban books. While you try to create safe and welcoming places where our children can learn, extremists attack our freedom to live safe from gun violence.
And another anti-gun vice president who's also a vicious liar and a stolen valor candidate.
Hope woke up like many of you did 5 weeks ago and said, Dad, you're the only person I know who's in elected office. You need to stop what's happening with this. I'll take my kick in the butt for the NRA. I spent 25 years in the Army and I hunt. And I gave the money back, and I'll tell you what I have been doing. I've been voting for common sense legislation that protects the Second Amendment, but we can do background checks. We can do CDC research. We can make sure we don't have reciprocal carry among states, and we can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place where those weapons are at.
And you have a man who kept your rights in place while he was in office the first time. As far as I'm concerned, there's no choice. But let me know what you think. As always, you can leave your comments in the comment section below. And as always, any statements of violence or statements that lead to violence will be removed. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you're notified the next time a video goes live. I'm going to see you on the next one. Peace.